Welcome to the Sustainability Circuit Show. We'll be discussing where business meets responsibility. Join me as I speak to industry leaders across Kenya about their personal journeys and how sustainability became part of their company's strategy. Stay tuned for these conversations. We'll be highlighting real impact, what practical solutions and the value for businesses when it comes to sustainability. Let's begin the conversations. I will be your host today, Jane Acheng. I'm joined with an amazing guest. When I say an amazing guest, today is gems on gems on gems. She's an author. She heads a sustainability department. And beyond that, she probably has the sweetest voice I have experienced on set today. But I will let her introduce herself. Welcome very much, Wendy. Please introduce yourself. Give us a bit of context. Who is Wendy? What does Wendy do?
Thank you, Jean. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very kind introduction. Yeah, so again, my name is Wendy Boyd. I'm the current group head of sustainability and ESG at SASINI, PLC. SASINI is one of Africa's leading agribusiness company. So I'm very passionate about driving, especially in private sector, companies that are future-proofing through considerations in sustainability and just walking the journey that's looking at more than just profits, but also considering people and looking at the planet. So this has been quite an interesting journey for me. Mm-hmm. And then now most recently an author, mm-hmm. because, through my journey, I just, I realized like behavior is hard to change when you're older. And so I want to have these conversations right from the base, from the foundation, mm-hmm. when you're young, because my book targets the ages of 4 to 8 years old, mm-hmm. which is basically also the formative years of anyone, of life, right? Mm-hmm. Where you learn the basic ethos on what drives you. So that's what inspired me to just write the book and have these conversations about ESG right mm-hmm. from that young age. Yes.
But we're going so fast. We're already at the author level. I want us to walk the journey. What has this career journey looked like? I don't know if you started in sustainability. Paint for us a picture. How did that journey transition to you eventually working for an agribusiness?
Okay. So would you actually guess I started in media? That was how my career began. Uh-huh. I was doing digital strategies for clients. And as I came to, gain a bit more experience in the space, mm-hmm. I wanted to expound more than just digital media and see what other value can I offer. So I went into the world of PR. Mm-hmm. So I worked for an agency, mm-hmm. Doing the whole scope of PR, that is communications.
I would not have thought. Really? This is interesting. Uh-huh.
Yes. So the whole scope of PR, including, communication strategies, crisis management, media relations, mm-hmm. Now digital as well, mm-hmm. Managing digital channels. And, back in the day when I was doing digital marketing, it was not a thing then. So it was very new. Yeah, uh-huh. It was not a thing. So I'd walk into the clients and say, you can actually advertise your business online. Mm-hmm. And we were crazy because they would look at us like we were crazy. Uh-huh. And actually, that's when we even started like the influencer, because I was working for a media company. We started selling the pages of the media presenters.
Oh, this was before influencers were influencers.
Yeah, before the influencers were influencers. So when I expanded my scope to working the whole PR, it was very interesting for me. And now I pivoted and moved to financial services. Now that was another eye-opener.
Of course, a whole different landscape.
A whole different landscape. Listening to all these financial jargons and investment jargons. Mm-hmm. And as a communication specialist, I needed to break that down for the common, Mwananchi, you and I, mm-hmm. To be able to understand exactly what is being communicated here. Mm-hmm. And that is where now I was exposed to the world of sustainability, mm-hmm. Because I moved jobs and worked at the Securities Exchange at the NSC. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of had a bird's eye view of private sector, listed companies in Kenya. And during my work at the NSC, part of the work was championing, things like gender equality in listed companies. And before, there was no term to it. It was not called ESG. It was not called sustainability.
Yeah.
It was just fragmented efforts. But now that we have more knowledge, we know that it all falls under sustainability. Yeah. So at the exchange, I was involved mostly around at policy level, including the release of the first disclosure guidance manual at the time, just to kind of help companies start their reporting journey, as well as training and awareness, because we realized that a lot of companies want to be sustainable. They just don't know where to start. They don't know how to look at it. How do you, where do you begin? How do you report on it? How do you communicate it? And so I realized this is actually an area I'm passionate about. When you talk about, driving good business, fighting for things like gender equality or advocating for it. And as I continue to equip myself more, I now entered the whole climate scene and realized, we're in a crisis and, we need to do more. Well, how can I play my role in that space? And then over and above that, now something that kind of motivated me was when now I had my daughter. And I said, I want to live a planet that she can thrive in, not just merely survive. So she was a huge motivating factor for me to say, I need to play a part. I need to do work that leaves impact. So I started to upskill myself, learning all about sustainability, at least as much as I can, because you can't really learn everything
in the world.
And I'm still learning.
We're always learning
every day.
Things. Every day there's something new in this landscape.
Yeah. So I said I want to focus on being, really good at sustainability, so that I can use that to make a difference. And so I moved. I stayed in financial services for a bit, and then now later transitioned to SASINI, where I met, our group managing director, Martin. One of the business leaders who I deeply, deeply admire. His work is very authentic.
I think anyone who's had any session with Martin, you will know his passion for people.
Absolutely.
And for responsible business, even just from how he thinks around business. I think all the sessions you've had with him, you can feel the energy that this is someone that wants to do business, that goes towards uplifting communities and uplifting society. So I hear you on that. I'm hearing a very interesting journey here, because communication, PR, digital marketing, financial services, then coming into agribusiness. It's quite the journey. Paint for us the picture from an agribusiness like SASINI PLC. What does sustainability look like at SASINI?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So for us, sustainability is our everyday business. It's not fragmented. It's not a department. It's ingrained in the core business and everyday operations. Because we're an agribusiness, we depend on land, we depend on the soil for us to cultivate our crops. And climate change is close home for us. So it's something we think about every single day, even if it may not necessarily be termed or named as sustainability. It is sustainability, because we look at, we have factories that consume a significant amount of energy. How can we be more sustainable in terms of the energy that we are consuming? Okay, we have our crops in the fields. We're looking at climate change, getting affected by adverse and unpredictable weather patterns. What else can we do? How can we stay ahead of this? Okay, then we have people. People are the ones who are driving the business. How do we then have a productive workforce that is motivated to perform every single day? So then you look at people and say, okay, so what are the issues? You look at farmers. Farmers, form a very big percentage of our value chain, because currently the balance is about 30-70, where 70% is coming from smallholder farmers. And so what are some of the
maybe you
needs?
can even just mention, because I know we have macadamia, we have nuts and orchids, avocados. I feel like usually when people hear SASINI, they don't see the entire value chain. You could mention on that, especially because I know the work you do with smallholder farmers is very, very, very large.
Yes. So SASINI currently deals with 4 crops. So we have tea. In fact, a lot of people call us SASINI tea, but we actually we diversified beyond. So we have tea, we have coffee, we have macadamia, most recently macadamia and avocado business. So tea and coffee are the crops that we started with. And we've been established since 1952. In fact, we're about to celebrate our 75th. Yeah, so you can see it's a, and not many companies get to, operations for that long.
Yeah.
That means you have to, you have to look at beyond just the profits. What else makes a business more resilient, especially in today's age and time, yeah? So there's cultivation of the crops, we process, we pack, and we export. We also have a retail market, relatively smaller than our export business, but primarily our business model is export. So that is SASINI in a nutshell. And when it comes to sustainability, it is the core, really, of what we do. In fact, because we have 6 pillars driving our corporate strategy at the moment, and integration of ESG is our 3rd pillar. And so, we have identified 9 SDGs out of the 17, which we are driving through the business. Yes. So actually everyone at SASINI speaks about sustainability. We all know the SDGs. So a lot of capacity building, a lot of awareness for even my colleagues, just to understand why it's important and bringing it home. Because when you have conversations about sustainability, sometimes
they can feel very elitist, for lack of a better word, or they can feel like it's outside what you already do, which what we're discussing here is this is the everyday process of your business. So it's not a separate box.
And it can feel far away. When you say climate change, you're like, it's too far.
It's too
far.
But
when you bring it home, like, how are you going to put food on your table in the next 5 years? That's, okay, that's hitting me. So it's bringing the conversation home. Yeah.
This is quite insightful. I'm listening to this 9 pillars. I'm listening to this SDGs. We're seeing the work across the smallholder farmers. This is a very large corporation, for lack of a better word. And I cannot minimize that managing sustainability here is no small feat, for sure. Perhaps walk us through what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you are seeing in an ecosystem for agribusiness, thinking around sustainability. I know we talk about climate change, and as we're rightfully saying, the average person sometimes tends to imagine it's so far away. It's so near because even if you look at the weather in Nairobi, we have barely seen the sun in a very long time, and those adverse climate effects are having those ripple effects. So for a company as large as SASINI, what challenges and opportunities are you picking out of this conversation beyond compliance? Because I know compliance is also heavy for the value chain that you exist in, especially on the export part of it. Locally, let's start locally. What are some of those challenges when it comes to implementing sustainability?
Okay, yes, and you mentioned climate change, which is, I had said earlier, it's close home for us. We wake up one morning and find hail has destroyed the plantation, for example. That has an effect back to the business. And especially it being unpredictable or adverse, where we have more rainfall than normal, or less than normal, longer periods of droughts, heavy rainfall. The other day, when there was heavy rainfall and there were floods that were destroying homes and people's lives and took people's lives. So these are the everyday challenges that we are seeing. Even in agriculture, it does affect us because, we need to be able to tell the cycle, when to plant, when to harvest, when to put fertilizer. So if it becomes then unpredictable, or you know, in a cycle where we're not able to tell beforehand, then it's, you know, it's affecting then the business in terms of how do we tell. And then when you wake up now to hail, what can you do really, you know? Yeah. So, but the opportunity here is looking at things like innovation. So do we have tools? Maybe using like AI, can we be able to then predict some of these cycles before they happen? What's the innovation in the space? I can tell you, like our tea business, for example, is fully mechanized. You know, back in the day when you would see tea pluckers in the field getting the tea manually. So for us now, when you go, it is machines that are doing the work. So they're in the farm 24 hours, day and night. And these are now being driven. Actually, we'll speak about gender later, but they're actually women now in the farm driving this big, heavy machinery that you'd think predominantly was for, you know, the male gender, but now we have women in the space.
And I know, just to pick up from there, sometimes when people hear innovations of this kind, they're like, so what happened to all those tea pickers? But it's the kind of phrasing that we're thinking of. Anywhere there's challenges, opportunities exist to diversify and to capacity build and fill in that new space. Because I know sometimes we tend to really skew on the negative part of things. Perhaps you could shed more light, especially when we're talking about gender equality and diversity and elements of this in a business like agribusiness that is very critical. Because I don't need to get the numbers on top of my head, but I'm sure a big percentage of your farmers are mostly women. How has SASINI tackled the element of gender inclusion and diversity?
That's a good question, because gender equality is actually one of our focus areas in our strategy, and we have been tracking and measuring that. And I think the first time that we launched our report, the ratio of male to female employees, actually let me talk about leadership, was at about between 10 to 16% of women versus men. Yes. Over time, that has grown. This year, as we're launching our report, that is the 2023-2024 report, we're currently at 47%, 50. So we made a commitment to say we want to be 50-50 by 2026. And so we said, okay, how are we going to get there? We look at inclusive recruitment systems. So to make sure just at the point of recruiting, already there is a balanced playing field for both genders, right? And you know, sometimes when you think about gender equality, you think of a certain gender. Yes. So for us, we want to create a level playing ground for both genders to have opportunities, to compete. Something else we've done is having daycare centers and kindergartens in all our estates, so that when we have women who are coming to do the work during the day, because that's, you know, the cost of caregiving. And we realized that one of the barriers was because the women are saying we can't come because we're at home taking care of the children. So we put, you know, the daycare centers and kindergartens in school, so the mom can come, leave the children, go do the work, get paid at the end of the day, pick your child as you go back home. So that's one of the things. Something else we're looking at is also our supply chain, our suppliers. How much are we giving to suppliers? How much of this money is going to women-owned businesses, youth-owned businesses, persons with disability, and, you know, attempting to set a quota or targets in terms of, we want about, you know, 10%. Actually, we've been ambitious and saying 130% of this money to go towards women-owned businesses and some of the marginalized groups in our supply chain as well. And then something else we want to do this year is also now even go deeper and say, okay, so this is the ratio of men to women. So what is the pay ratio, you know, against?
I remember when I was at the launch, Martin talking about the living wage, and it was the first time I'd had a CEO talking about living wage. And so I know you're bringing that wage conversation. Walk us through that. What dynamics go on the scale of an agribusiness to be able to achieve a living wage? I think this is something other listed companies can learn from. Yeah.
Right. And so you talk about living wage. So there's this minimum wage, which is statutory. Okay. Then there is living wage, which is much more than the minimum
wage.
And so this is the cost that has been calculated for a person to be able to live a decent life. Okay. And you'd actually be surprised, it's in Africa regionally, very, very few companies actually committing towards living wage. So for us to be pioneers in that space, it's work we're proud of, but it's also a work in progress. So we had said we would start with our tea business in terms of trying to reduce the living wage gap by 50%. And so that work begins by actually measuring, first of all, what is the actual living wage and where do we stand as a business? Then how do we reduce that by 50%? Now, this is not work that you can do without partners.
Of course.
Yeah, so we have some of our select tea buyers who partnered with us in the program to help reduce that gap by 50%. And so we're continuing the program, and also we envision to scale it across our other businesses. Yeah.
This is it's always exciting when I interact with the work that the team at SASINI is doing. I want to bring us to innovation that comes with managing data, because I know with such a large corporation, managing data across the entire group is a tussle. Perhaps what are your thoughts on how an agribusiness can position itself to manage specifically sustainability related data? Because as you've said, for you guys, it's the everyday. It's not when we're doing the disclosures, it's we have to measure our water capacity, waste management is key here, climate change is key here. We have to be on top of all these things every other day of our operations.
Yeah, so managing data comes with its own kind of unique challenges, right? So data sometimes is fragmented, sometimes it's siloed, and data doesn't sit with the sustainability department. It sits with the entire organization. The whole operations team sit with the data that we need and require for us to be able to track our sustainability goals and see how we're performing. And so for a company like ours, we actually are in the process of automating collection, tracking, and reporting on our sustainability, set targets. And sometimes when you look at the finance function, for example, if I want to know how the business is performing today, right now, they can be able to tell you, and that's the dream for us as well as sustainability, not just on an annual, cycle when we release the report. So we want to be able to say today, this month, how are we performing in terms of, so maybe introduce something like regenerative agriculture is a more sustainable way of farming that puts back more carbon into the soil than it takes out, right? So you have to be able to compare that, for example, with the yields. So we want to say, in this year, we prioritize regenerative agriculture. How did that translate in terms of yields? You want to be able to pull that data real time and be able to say, this is actually how we're doing. So I feel like to be able to automate that data collection process and tracking is one step in terms of getting there. Yes.
Okay. We've of course been discussing this because this show of course has been sponsored by one of the data management softwares for a company that's on Ecoloop. And perhaps one of the thematic things we are also discovering, of course, throughout the development process is the need to kind of have audited trails. Because again, in the age of public disclosures and commitments, your stakeholders now, they're also watching, right? They're like, okay, you tell us 1, 2, 3, can we have this assured? And so for us, even what we're thinking around is how do we now go ahead and support businesses that once you manage this data, how do we go ahead and offer assurance? And I know sometimes we think of the cost of doing all these elements. Okay, we have data management, Jane. Now we also have to get an external assurance, and you're asking yourself what the value is of all this. As we're just winding up, this entire journey is not cheap. We can't fail to recognize that this costs money, this costs experts, this costs time. If you could summarize it in what is the value of a company. I know we've talked about it from our kids are here, our farmers are here, our businesses are here. But for the ones that are still seated on the fence, right? Should we make this really a core priority, or should we put it somewhere on the side dock? What is the value for a business that wants to do this on an everyday basis?
Right. There is so much I could speak about, but I know because we are time bound, I will say 2 things. Number one, once you are able to tie your sustainability initiatives to even your operations, you're able to realize your savings in shillings and cents. Like you're able to actually quantify, because we have solar panels in our factories that are powering our energy needs by 30%. We've been able to make this saving, okay? Because we have committed to regenerative agriculture, our yields are more, okay? Because we have committed to gender equality, and now we have diverse and inclusive decision makers on the table, we have an inclusive business. We're now considering things that would not have been considered had we not been a more diverse and inclusive business. Because we have prioritized innovation, we're able to penetrate markets in terms of ESG-driven market expansion. We export to the UK, for example, the European market. The legislation that is happening there currently. Without sustainability, we would not have a license to operate there. We would not have entry to those markets. And then the second thing is the opportunity that sustainability brings for you to be able to communicate with your stakeholders, so that now you're actually walking the journey along with even the communities where you operate, because you realize that they do give you a license to operate, right? So because in sustainability journey we have to map out our stakeholders and also have stakeholder engagement is the core, is actually at the core of sustainability work. So we're able to engage our stakeholders, engage employees, and see what are, how can we, motivate you even more. Engage our farmers and see what else can we do in the community. Like now the farmers told us we don't have water, we're having a problem with water, and so we said, okay, let's see how we can help you access clean water. And now we're drilling boreholes in the community and equipping them, solarizing them, and now the community can access the water. Committing to things like schools, because the community says the schools are too far, we don't have good quality schools in the area. And so now we have primary schools, we have secondary schools within our estates, where now the children can come and learn, because education is a big factor.
I'm in awe. I am soaking in all this work, and I think these are the kind of stories and businesses that we want to champion in the Kenyan market, and even just setting the example of what kind of future in the corporate world do we want to have as a nation. And thank you so much, Wendy, for coming. We're sadly we've come to the end of the episode, and I just want to get one parting shot from you. 10 years ago, I know we've talked a lot about work or companies, but let's come to Wendy 10 years ago. If you were to give one advice to Wendy 10 years ago, career advice, what's that take?
Right, 10 years ago, I'm trying to think how old I was. One advice I'd give myself is, that thing that keeps you up at night, it's not there by chance. It's your calling, it's your passion. Don't silence that voice. When there's something that's really in your heart and it's aching to be heard and it's trying to get your attention, that passionate work, That's what makes a difference. So listen to that voice, that one that, why you stay, what's keeping you up at night. Listen to that. Like, your passion is going to point you in the direction where you can actually serve, even in your career, purposefully, and leave impact.
Definitely taking that. Hopefully TikTok is not keeping me up at night. But thank you so much. We've come to the end. Thank you so much for coming to this episode. We can't wait to host you in the future series, just to unpack more of the work that SASINI is doing in the agribusiness. So ladies and gentlemen at home, we have come to the end of this episode here at the Sustainability Roundtable Show. I have been your host, Jenna Cheng. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel and stay tuned on our social media handles for more of this content and where you can plug in. And until next time, it's Kwaheri.